Megalodon Media News. We give you all the news nobody is talking about.
Megalodon Media.
It's the Megalodon.
I remembered when all the talk about MKUltra broke, and then they were talking about lawsuits, and there were lawsuits, and the CIA and the federal government said that this didn't exist, and then they came back and said, well, it does exist, and then, but we're not doing it anymore. I guess my question to y'all first is, which lie do we believe? Because, thank you.
All I mean to say is that I think if there are such projects going on inside the U.S. government, there might be a sense that we can do this without any hostile supervision.
What are the possibilities that what we've learned in MKUltra, now that it has advanced so much to algorithms and the computer and getting to loners, that some of these loners could, through this just mass propagation of whatever you're doing, could cause someone to maybe take a shot at a president?
I know there's a lot of speculation out there about the Butler shooting, and I guess even the Charlie Kirk shooting. I just hate to speculate because I don't know. I have no firsthand knowledge whether those guys were programmed through radio waves or through their computer activity.
In the annals of covert government operations, few programs evoke as much chilling fascination and moral outrage as MKUltra. This wasn't spies and gadgets, it was far darker and more insidious. From 1953 until 1964, the CIA ran a top-secret research project with one terrifying goal: complete control over the human mind. They tried to develop techniques to break down a person's identity, erase memories, implant thoughts or commands, turning people into programmable assets or unwitting pawns. It read like science fiction, but this was inside the government. MKUltra's scope was vast, using brutal and unethical methods. Researchers pushed psychological and physiological limits, using high doses of drugs, LSD, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, electroshock therapy, and other forms of psychological abuse. These experiments weren't limited to labs, they took place in prisons, hospitals, and on unsuspecting civilians in public. Subjects were often society's most vulnerable: prisoners, psychiatric patients, people struggling with addiction, people who, as one CIA officer said, could not fight back. Consent was almost never given or informed. Participants were drawn into a web of deceit by an agency with little oversight. MKUltra shows how power, fear, and paranoia can lead to atrocity under the cover of national security. The program stayed secret for years, a ghost in the machine. Only investigative journalists and congressional committees in the 1970s forced details into the light. Even then, much was hidden. The CIA destroyed most of its records in 1973, an effort to bury what had been done. The fragments left paint a grim portrait of unchecked power. This introduction peels back those layers of secrecy. We'll examine the origins, the methods, and the ultimate failure of this audacious mind control initiative. It's not just about spies or scientists, it's about profound ethical questions when power violates human rights. What really happened during MKUltra? It's a complex, unsettling tale of Cold War anxieties, scientific hubris, and the devastating human cost of a secret war fought inside the human mind. That's where this story begins. The genesis of MKUltra cannot be understood outside the intense, high-stakes atmosphere of the Cold War. In the early 1950s, the United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a tense global standoff, a conflict waged not only with armies and nuclear arsenals but also with propaganda and intelligence. Within the American national security establishment, a deep and pervasive fear took hold: the belief that the Soviets and their communist allies in China and North Korea had developed sophisticated techniques for brainwashing. To CIA Director Allen Dulles, these events were not signs of coercion or torture, but evidence of something far more sinister: a new form of warfare. Dulles and other top CIA officials became convinced that the United States was falling dangerously behind in a critical, unseen arms race for control of the mind. They believed the Soviets had discovered a truth serum, or a method to create programmable assassins, spies who could be activated by a trigger phrase without any memory of their mission. In this climate of paranoia, the imperative was not just to catch up but to surpass the enemy's perceived capabilities. The CIA decided it needed to develop its own arsenal of mind-altering and mind-controlling techniques. The agency's quest did not begin with MKUltra. It was the culmination of earlier smaller-scale projects like Project Bluebird and Operation Artichoke, which had already begun exploring interrogation methods using drugs and hypnosis. However, under Dulles' zealous leadership, these efforts were dramatically expanded and intensified. In April 1953, he authorized the creation of a new, ultra-sensitive program that would operate with unprecedented autonomy and secrecy. This new project was given the cryptonym MKUltra. It was placed under the command of a brilliant but morally ambiguous chemist named Sidney Gottlieb, who was given a virtual blank check and carte blanche to pursue any and all avenues of research, no matter how unorthodox or unethical they might seem. The ultimate goal was chillingly clear: to find a way to completely master the human psyche. The CIA sought a reliable method to induce confessions, to make people compliant, to erase memories, and even to engineer specific behaviors on command. The dark origins of MKUltra are further stained by a disturbing and undeniable connection to the human experiments conducted in Nazi concentration camps. Instead of prosecuting all Nazi doctors and scientists for their horrific war crimes, they secretly recruited some of them. One of the key figures who advised the CIA's early mind control efforts was General Walter Schreiber. The work of MKUltra was, as journalist Stephen Kinzer has argued, essentially a continuation of work that began in Japanese concentration camps and Nazi concentration camps. The agency was picking up the research right where the Nazi doctors had left off, driven by the same cold logic that the pursuit of a higher goal justified any level of human suffering. At the heart of Sidney Gottlieb's expansive and terrifying toolkit was a single powerful substance, lysergic acid diethylamide, better known as LSD. In 1953, with Alan Dulles' backing, Gottlieb arranged an extraordinary CIA purchase. The agency spent $240,000 to buy the world's existing supply of LSD. The CIA secretly contracted Eli Lilly to crack and replicate the formula. With limitless supply, Gottlieb could launch an undeclared chemical campaign. He built a network of front organizations and fake foundations to fund work at universities, hospitals, and prisons, often without those institutions knowing. A defining and horrifying characteristic of MKUltra was its complete disregard for consent. The vast majority had no idea they were part of a secret government experiment. Operation Midnight Climax was an infamous example. The agency set up brothels. CIA-hired prostitutes would lure unsuspecting men back to safe houses. There they were secretly given LSD-laced drinks. Agents watched from behind two-way mirrors. The deceit extended even to the agency's own personnel. In 1953, CIA biochemist Frank Olson was unknowingly dosed at a work retreat. He fell into deep paranoia and depression. 9 days later, he plunged from a New York hotel window. The CIA deliberately targeted the most vulnerable segments of the American population. Prisons and psychiatric hospitals became crucial research grounds, filled with captive subjects who, as one officer bluntly stated, could not fight back. One of the most infamous examples was a young gangster named James Whitey Bulger. He recounted horrible periods of living nightmares, intense paranoia, and terrifying hallucinations of blood coming out of the walls. At institutions like the Allen Memorial Institute, the CIA secretly funded the work of Dr. D. Ewan Cameron. He subjected patients to high-voltage electroshock therapy. He then put them into drug-induced comas for weeks or months at a time. The results were catastrophic, leaving many patients with permanent amnesia. The most brutal and unrestrained research was conducted far from American shores in secret detention centers known as black sites. Here, Sidney Gottlieb and his teams could test their most extreme theories. The goal at these black sites was to find a way to completely break down a human being's personality and resistance. Detainees were subjected to massive doses of LSD. This chemical assault was combined with other brutal techniques. One of the most disturbing research threads was known as Project K, focused on creating the perfect Manchurian candidate. The experiment was a complete failure. The research demonstrated that while it was possible to destroy a mind, it was not possible to control it. These secret prisons were the terrifying laboratories where the CIA's quest for mind control descended into pure, unadulterated atrocity. After a decade of ruthless experimentation, Sidney Gottlieb and the leaders of the CIA were forced to confront a sobering reality. Their ambitious quest for a magical mind control weapon had been a complete and utter failure. By the early 1960s, even Sidney Gottlieb was beginning to lose faith. In a candid internal memo, he admitted the program's failures. He acknowledged that after years of research, no effective knockout pill existed, no effective truth serum existed. The great lesson of MKUltra was grim. The research proved it was possible to destroy a human mind. Through drugs, through electroshock, through sensory deprivation and other forms of abuse, the CIA could reliably induce psychosis. They had become experts in breaking people, but a broken mind is not an empty vessel ready to be filled. A shattered consciousness could not be reassembled and controlled. The legacy of MKUltra is not measured in scientific breakthroughs, but in a trail of broken lives and shattered minds. Those subjected to high-dose LSD experiments reported lifelong psychological trauma, chronic anxiety, severe paranoia, and terrifying flashbacks. Many suffered from severe, irreversible amnesia, unable to recognize their own families or remember their pasts. The human cost also includes those whose deaths are linked to the program. The case of CIA employee Frank Olson is the most well-known. The true body count of MKUltra remains one of its most disturbing and unanswerable questions. Ultimately, the most tragic aspect of this immense suffering is that it was all for nothing. The human cost was astronomically high, yet the scientific and intelligence benefits were zero. By 1963, the writing was on the wall. The key figures who had championed the program were moving on. Allen Dulles had been forced out as CIA director in 1961. The program was quietly, unceremoniously wound down. In 1964, MKUltra was officially terminated, but the research did not stop entirely. It was folded into a smaller, tamer project, MKSearch. The grand goal of total mind control was abandoned. For nearly a decade, MKUltra's dark history lay buried in classified files. The agency moved on, letting the memory fade. They thought they'd buried their sins. The winding down was a pause before the final act. The secrets would not stay buried. A changing political climate would pull the truth into the harsh light and force a public reckoning. The secrets of MKUltra might have remained buried forever, if not for a desperate act of self-preservation by the CIA itself. In late 1972, Helms summoned Sidney Gottlieb for a crucial meeting. They made a fateful decision. The MKUltra files had to be destroyed. Gottlieb took matters into his own hands. He oversaw the collection of sensitive files. 7 large boxes were located. The boxes were fed into a shredder, turning the paper trail into confetti. The destruction wasn't complete. Some documents survived. A set of financial records stored elsewhere was overlooked. In 1974, reporter Seymour Hersh of the New York Times broke the story. He revealed the CIA's massive illegal domestic spying and experimentation program to a shocked American public. Hersh's revelation sent shockwaves through Washington. In the wake of the story, 3 inquiries were launched: the Rockefeller Commission, the Church Committee, and the Pike Committee. Though hampered by shredded documents, the investigations began piecing together the fragmented truth of MKUltra, forcing a public reckoning the CIA had tried to prevent. The legacy of MKUltra extends far beyond government reform. It has left a deep and lasting scar on public trust. The program became a symbol of government paranoia and the potential for secret power to corrupt absolutely. The story has permeated popular culture, inspiring numerous films, books, and television shows that explore themes of mind control, government conspiracy, and the fragility of human identity. For the victims and their families, the legacy is one of personal pain and a long, difficult search for justice. While some received financial settlements, no amount of money could undo the damage or erase the decades of suffering. The story of MKUltra is a permanent reminder of the devastating human cost when a powerful institution loses its moral compass and begins to view people not as citizens to be protected, but as objects to be manipulated and discarded. The program was born from the anxieties of the Cold War, but its methods mirrored the very totalitarianism it claimed to be fighting. The ultimate lesson of MKUltra is a clear and sobering one. The quest to control the minds of others is not only a scientific dead end but a path to moral ruin. The human mind, in all its complexity and resilience, proved to be a territory that could be damaged but never truly conquered. Yeah, that's the hard truth.